Now we will start chapter 7 of class 12 biology, that is evolution. When you hear this term evolution, what comes to your mind? The very first picture which might strike your mind is that of human evolution. In this picture, you see and interpret that ancestors of humans were quadrupedal. That is, they walked on 4 legs and gradually with the course of time, they became bipedal. That is, they started using 2 legs for walking. Does this mean that evolution term is restricted to humans only? Do other life forms not change over time? They do so. All living organisms, maybe plants, animals, or microorganisms, are undergoing change in their life forms in due course of time. Or you can say they are becoming better versions of themselves. What does evolution mean? Evolution is the process by which different kinds of living organisms are believed to have developed from earlier forms during the history of Earth. Now the question arises, why is this change occurring in all living organisms? As we all know that our environment is ever changing. Our environment is not stable. So organisms are adapting themselves or changing themselves according to the changing environment. Otherwise, they will not be able to survive. So all organisms are adapting themselves or evolving themselves so that they have better survival rate and breeding rate, because the ultimate aim of every organism on this earth is successful feeding and successful breeding. Even the non-living things are evolving. You might have heard of evolution of stars, evolution of earth, evolution of rocks. We are evolving new technologies. For example, earlier we used to have black and white televisions, and later with the advancement in technologies, these black and white televisions are replaced by high definition LCDs and LEDs. Engineers have evolved better versions of cars that are more economical than older versions. So we are bringing advancements in our technologies also. We are bringing evolution in our technologies also. But in this chapter, we will discuss evolution with respect to life forms. By the end of this chapter, you will learn how life originated, what are the various theories that explain origin of life, what are the evidences that show that evolution has occurred. Then we will talk about few new concepts like adaptive radiation, Hardy-Weinberg principle, and finally the human evolution. Lot many questions come to our mind regarding life, like when and how did first life might have originated? How was our universe formed? Is there any life on other planets of solar system also? The origin of life is a fascinating and curious topic which invites lots of debates, because no one has witnessed how universe was formed, how first life came on earth. The origin of life is linked to origin of earth, and origin of earth in turn is linked to origin of universe. So first of all, we will discuss how universe originated, then we will talk about origin of earth, and later origin of life. Our universe is very old. Can you tell the age of the universe by looking at the figures given in the screen? Some of us are even unable to guess the number written on the screen. Our universe is that old. Our universe is about 20 billion years old. Different scientists started looking for unanswered questions of how universe originated. They proposed different theories regarding origin of universe. One of the most accepted theory for origin of universe is Big Bang theory. According to this theory, our universe was a single huge ball of extremely high temperature. A huge explosion occurred and clouds of gases are formed which are expanding. Now let us discuss this Big Bang theory in detail. According to this theory, a single huge dense ball of universe was having extremely high temperature. There were 4 fundamental forces in it: gravity, electromagnetism, and strong and weak nuclear forces. The interaction between these forces resulted in a huge, unimaginable explosion, and that huge ball called universe began to expand, and it is said that it is still expanding. As the universe expanded, its temperature started to cool down, and with the passage of time, gases like hydrogen and helium were formed. These gases condense due to gravitation and give rise to different galaxies in the universe. Our universe is made up of about 100 billion galaxies, and these galaxies contain stars and clouds of gas and dust. One of the galaxies is our Milky Way galaxy, the galaxy in which our solar system is present, and our Earth is one of the planets of the solar system. Earth was supposed to have formed about 4.5 billion years back. There was no atmosphere at that time. Everything was in molten form on primitive Earth. Water vapor, methane, carbon dioxide and ammonia released from the molten mass covered the entire surface of Earth. Gradually, the ultraviolet rays from the sun broke water into hydrogen and oxygen. Hydrogen, being lighter, escaped into the atmosphere, and oxygen combined with ammonia and methane to form water, carbon dioxide and other gases. Gradually, ozone layer was formed, and this ozone layer protected the Earth's surface from harmful ultraviolet rays. As the Earth cooled, some of the water vapors cooled and fell down as rain to fill all the depressions and form oceans. As we have discussed, universe appeared about 20 billion years back, Earth appeared about 4.5 billion years back, and life appeared on Earth about 4 billion years back. Till now we discussed about origin of universe and origin of Earth. Now we will discuss various theories which explain how life originated on Earth. These theories are theory of special creation, panspermia, theory of spontaneous generation, theory of biogenesis, and theory of chemical evolution. There are some mythological beliefs, religious beliefs that explain theory of special creation. According to Hindu mythology, Lord Brahma is the creator of entire life on earth. In Bible, it is mentioned that whole world created by some supernatural power. The first man named Adam and first woman named Eve were created by God. The theory of special creation is not acceptable by scientists because there is no scientific evidence, no scientific proof of such creations. Did life come from outer space? Did life originated somewhere else in space? Yes. As per theory of panspermia, life did not originate on Earth. In fact, it originated on some other planet. According to this theory, units of life called spores were transferred from space to Earth. But some scientists criticize this theory because these spores of life cannot survive during their journey from space because of extremely high temperature and ultraviolet rays. They would have burnt to ashes during their journey due to the fire created by atmospheric friction. Then some scientists believe that life originated spontaneously by itself from non-living matter. As per theory of spontaneous generation, frogs were formed spontaneously from standing rainwater. Larvae of housefly were formed from cow dung by itself. Von Helmont even gave the recipe for the origin of rats. He kept dirty shirt with wheat grains for 21 days and showed the appearance of rats there. But scientists disapproved his experiment, saying that there was plenty of food available in his experiment along with favorable environmental conditions, and rats from surroundings came and started breeding there. Evidences against theory of spontaneous generation was given by Louis Pasteur. From his experiment, Louis Pasteur demonstrated that life did not come from non-living matter. In fact, life came from pre-existing life. That's why this theory was called theory of biogenesis. In his experiment, he boiled a mixture of yeast, sugar, and water called broth in 3 different flasks. Mouth of one of the flasks was open, mouth of another flask was sealed with cork, and mouth of third flask was swan neck shaped with U-turn, although its mouth was open. In first case, after few days, microorganisms appeared in the broth. In second case, no microbial growth was seen in the broth. And in third case, microbial growth was seen in the U-turn of the flask but not in the broth. What are the possible reasons for different results in different flasks? In first case, spores of microorganisms from surroundings settled on the broth, settled on the nutrient medium. In second case, spores of microorganisms from surroundings could not reach the broth because it was sealed. In third case, when the broth was boiled, its vapors condensed and collected in this U-turn. Spores of microorganisms from surroundings settled at this U-turn for nutrition. These microorganisms could not reach the broth because condensed vapors blocked the entry of microorganisms. Through his experiment, he proved that life did not originate by itself in the broth. In fact, life originated from the pre-existing life. That is, spores were already in atmosphere that gave rise to new life. However, he did not answer how first life came on Earth. Then came the theory of chemical evolution, which was proposed by Popperin and Haldane. According to them, life could have come from pre-existing non-living organic molecules like RNA and proteins, and these organic molecules were formed from inorganic molecules like methane, ammonia, etc. According to this theory, environmental conditions on primitive Earth were highly disturbing. There were frequently volcanic eruptions, lightning, and temperature was extremely high. At that time, gases present in primitive Earth were methane, ammonia, hydrogen, and water vapors. Oxygen was absent on primitive Earth. That means reducing atmosphere was present on primitive Earth. The energy available from volcanic eruptions and lightning converted these inorganic molecules, ammonia, hydrogen, methane, water vapors, into organic molecules like amino acids, sugars, etc. In 1953, S.L. Miller, an American scientist, created similar conditions of primitive Earth in his laboratory. He designed an apparatus that provides all the conditions of primitive Earth in it. There was a gas chamber with all the primitive gases. Which gases? Methane, hydrogen, ammonia, water vapors. He simulated lightning by creating electric discharge generated by 2 electrodes in the gas chamber. High temperature of 800 degrees C of primitive Earth was simulated by using steam from boiling water. In a week, he observed the formation of organic molecules like amino acids. Here he collected the products of these chemical reactions, and the products were amino acids. In similar experiments by other scientists, formation of other organic molecules like sugars, nitrogenous bases, pigments, and fats were also observed. From these organic molecules, first self-replicating metabolic capsules of life arose. These capsules could produce complex molecules like RNA, proteins, polysaccharides, etc. Once formed, these capsules evolved into complex life forms of today. In a nutshell, we can say from inorganic molecules like methane, ammonia, organic molecules like amino acids, sugars, nitrogenous bases, pigments, and fats were formed. These organic molecules evolved into first self-replicating capsules, and these capsules evolved into complex life forms of today. All life forms originated in water only. Analysis of meteorites also revealed presence of RNA, proteins, polysaccharides, indicating that similar processes are occurring somewhere else in space also. This theory, the theory of chemical evolution, is the most accepted of all. Till now, we have studied that evolution is a biological theory that postulates that all living organisms on this earth, that is, plants, animals, and microorganisms, all have a common origin, and their differences today are the result of modifications that occurred in successive generations. Strong evidences of evolution come from study of fossils, which is also called paleontological evidence. Then we will discuss comparative morphological and anatomical evidences, biochemical evidences of evolution, crossbreeding of plants and animals by man. It also serves as a evidence of evolution, industrial melanism, and antibiotic resistant microbes. So let us discuss these evidences of evolution in detail one by one. Study of fossils showed that organisms differ over time and certain life forms have become extinct even. New life forms have evolved from old life forms. Now what is fossil? A fossil is any preserved remain, impression or trace of any once living thing from the past geological age. What things can be preserved as fossils? Bones, shells, stone imprints of plants or animals or microbes, objects preserved in amber. Now what is amber? Amber is the gluey substance secreted by the plants, which is called resin. Some organisms, some insects, lizards, etc. get trapped in the resins also, and they are preserved as fossils. Study of morphological and anatomical structure of diverse kind of organisms also reveal that all diverse organisms have a common ancestor, means evolution has occurred in past. Now we will discuss these evidences under homologous organs and analogous organs. Homologous organs are the organs in different kinds of organisms with similar structures but different functions. For example, forelimbs of different species of mammals, that is whales, bats, cheetah and humans, is made up of similar type of bones: humerus, radius, ulna, carpals, metacarpals and phalanges. But the function of forelimbs in all these species is different according to their habitats. Whales use forelimbs for swimming, bats for flying, cheetah for running, and human beings use forelimbs for grasping things or for holding things, like you are holding a pen in your hand. Homology is seen in plants also. For example, thorns in bougainvillea and tendrils in cucurbits are stem modifications, means similar structure, but thorns in bougainvillea protect plant against browsing animals and tendrils in cucurbits help their weak stems in climbing. In these animals, same structure developed along different directions due to adaptations to different needs. So this is also called divergent evolution. Homology indicates common ancestry. Vertebrate hearts and brains also show homology. Another morphological and anatomical evidence of evolution comes from the analogous organs. What are analogous organs? Organs in diverse organisms with different structures but same function. For example, wings of butterfly and bird are used for flying. So in both cases the function is same. But butterfly wings are extensions of integument and wings of birds are made up of bones covered with flesh, skin and feather. Another example, eyes in octopus and mammals are used for vision. So function is the same. Octopus eye is skin modification, but nervous coat of mammal eye originates as an outgrowth of embryonic brain. Flippers of penguins and dolphins are used for swimming. These are the flippers. In both cases, the flippers are used for swimming. In penguins, flippers are skin extensions, but in dolphins, flippers are made up of bones. Example of analogy in plants, sweet potato and potato. Both sweet potato and potato are swollen to store food. That means function is same, but sweet potato is a modified root and potato is a modified stem. Now why analogy? It is the similar habitat that resulted in selection of similar adaptations in different groups of organisms but towards the same function. Analogous structures are a result of convergent evolution. The basic similarity in biochemistry of all living things also suggests that they have evolved from a single common ancestor. As we have already seen, all living things pass on information from generation to generation using the DNA molecule. All living things also use a molecule called ATP to carry energy around the organism. Diverse organisms have even found to have similar proteins and genes which perform similar functions. Here is the genetic code of human, chimpanzee and gorilla shown. We can see that the genetic code of chimpanzee and gorilla is almost identical to humans. The genetic code differs only by less than 1.2%, whereas the genetic code of mouse differs by approximately 15%. So biochemical similarities provide an evidence of common ancestry and hence evolution. Crossbreeding of plants and animals by man also provide evidence of evolution. We know that man has bred selected animals and plants for agriculture, horticulture, sports or security. In the first unit, we have discussed about artificial hybridization. How man produced new varieties of plants using cross-pollination techniques. By intensive breeding, man has created different types of breeds of cows, dogs, buffaloes, pigeons. You can see dogs have been artificially selected by man for certain characteristics for many years and evolved different breeds. All breeds of dog belong to the same species, that is Canis lupus, the wolf. The bread wheat which we eat today is also a product of crossbreeding programs carried by man. It is said that if within 100 years man could create new breeds or varieties, nature could have done the same over millions of years. Industrial melanism. Another evidence of evolution can be understood from the story of moth Biston betuliera. There were two types of moths, white-winged moths and dark-winged moths or melanized moths. Let's discuss what happened to these moths in England before industrialization and after industrialization. In 1850s, before industrialization in England, white lichens covered the trees. There were more white-winged moths on trees than dark-winged moths. White-winged moths could not be detected by the predators in the white background of lichens. But the dark-winged moths were easily identified and eaten by predators. So, the white-winged moths survived and the population of white-winged moths was more before industrialization. But after industrialization, a twist in their story came. Their lucks changed. So let's see what happened. In 1920, after industrialization, white lichens died due to industrial smoke and soot on trees. There were more dark-winged moths than white-winged moths in the same area. Why? Because white-winged moths are now spotted by predators against the dark background of soot and smoke. White-winged moths were easily identified and eaten by predators. Dark-winged moths survived, so after industrialization, the population of dark-winged moths was more. Hence, moths that can camouflage themselves, that is, hide in the background, survived. This showed that in a mixed population, those that can better adapt will survive and increase in population. But no variant is completely wiped out in either case. So this is an example of natural selection also. Evolution of antibiotic-resistant microbes. Here is shown the colony of Staphylococcus bacteria. In this colony, you can see 4 varieties of bacteria growing. Here is the levels of resistance of antibiotics of different bacteria shown. You can see here, yellow and orange types have low resistance to antibiotics, or you can say they are antibiotic sensitive. Red and dark red types are antibiotic resistant. When there was no antibiotic present in their nutrient medium, all types of bacteria were growing. But when antibiotic was added to their nutrient medium, then yellow and orange type, which were antibiotic sensitive, died, and red and dark red type of bacteria survived. The rate of appearance of new forms is linked to their lifespan. Microbes that divide fast becomes millions of individuals within hours. And excessive use of antibiotics resulted in selection of resistant varieties in a much lesser time scale. So resistant microbes are appearing within months or years and not centuries. Similarly, excessive use of herbicides, pesticides resulted in selection of resistant varieties of crop pests. These are all examples of evolution by anthropogenic action, or you can say evolution caused by man. Adaptive radiation. Let us understand what adaptive radiation means. Here you can see different varieties of birds. Some are seed eating, others are insect eating, cactus feeding, or fruit eating. And you can see here they all have a common ancestor. All these different varieties of birds originated from the common ancestor. That means a process of evolution is shown here. Now let us add the element of geographical area here in our explanation. Let us assume that the common ancestor is found on mainland and all other bird species are found on different geographical area. Now let us see what adaptive radiation means. The process of evolution of different species. Now this is the evolution of different species shown. Starting from a point. From where did their evolution started? their evolution started from this point where the common ancestor is present and literally radiating to other areas of geography is called adaptive radiation. So once again, the process of evolution of different species starting from a point and literally radiating to other areas of geography is called adaptive radiation. Examples here which we will discuss: Darwin finches and Australian marsupials. As you know that Darwin took a sea voyage to Galapagos Island. Galapagos Island is a group of islands in Pacific Ocean. These islands are separated from the mainland Central or South America. In this picture you can see a single unit of Galapagos Island shown, but actually it is a group of islands as you can see in this picture. These are all Galapagos Islands. Now let us see how these different species of finches originated from a common ancestor, that is seed-eating bird. On his voyage to Galapagos Island, Darwin observed small black birds which later were named Darwin finches. He found many varieties of finches on these Galapagos Islands. They were insectivorous, frugivorous, cactus feeding, seed eating and vegetarian finches. All these varieties evolved on the islands itself from the original seed-eating birds found on the mainland, Central or South America. Now let us see how these different varieties of birds might have evolved on different islands. A few million years ago, seed-eating small blackbirds lived on mainland Central or South America. Few of these birds might have migrated from mainland to different islands of Galapagos. They might have moved accidentally, which is called genetic drift, or there might have been gene migration. From these migrant birds evolved at least 13 species of finches on different Galapagos islands. Now, why these 13 species of finches evolved on different islands? Because there was different food sources available on different islands. So, the changes in their body shape, body size, beak shape and size occurred to adapt to new environmental conditions available on these different islands. This process in which one species is giving rise to multiple species is called adaptive radiation. Another example of adaptive radiation is marsupials of Australia. What are marsupials? Marsupials are pouched mammals. The mammals which give birth to immature young ones and they carry those immature young ones in the pouch of the body. In Australia, different marsupials evolved from a common ancestor within the Australian continent. So you can see these are the different marsupials: marsupial mole, sugar glider, Tasmanian wolf, tiger cat, banded anteater, marsupial rat, kangaroo, wombat, bandicoot, koala, and all these marsupials, they have evolved from a common ancestor. So this is also an example of adaptive radiation. It is said that two major groups of mammals, marsupials and placentals, have evolved in a similar way even though the two lineages have been living independently on separate continents. Australia separated from other continents more than 50 million years ago, and thereafter marsupials evolved there, but before the appearance of placental mammals. As a result, only mammals in Australia have been marsupials. Members of a group in which the young are born in a very immature condition and held in a pouch until they are ready to emerge into the outside world. Thus, even though placental mammals are dominant mammalian group throughout most of the world, marsupials retained supremacy in Australia. When more than one adaptive radiation occurs in an isolated geographical area, then it is called convergent evolution. Like Australian marsupials, placental mammals in rest of the world also exhibit adaptive radiation and evolved into variety of placental mammals which appear to be similar to a corresponding marsupial. For example, placental wolf and Tasmanian wolf appear to be similar. Tasmanian wolf is marsupial mammal. So here you can see a similarity between the placental mammals and corresponding Australian marsupials. Mole appears to be similar to marsupial mole. Anteater corresponds to numbat. Mouse looks like marsupial mouse. Lemur appears to be similar to spotted cuscus. Flying squirrel, flying phalanger, bobcat, Tasmanian tiger cat, wolf, Tasmanian wolf. Students, like the origin of life, the evolution of life has also been an object of intense debate. Early scientists were influenced by religion and believed in the divine power. But with the development of natural sciences like geology, anthropology, and biology, scientists developed new theories to explain the evolution of life through natural laws rather than divine instrument. So based on the evidences of evolution, various theories have been put forth regarding the evolution of life. These theories have tried to explain how organisms changed and new species developed. But the most important theories are the theories postulated by Lamarck, Darwin, and Hugo de Vries. So let us discuss these theories one by one. Lamarck's theory of evolution. According to Lamarck, if some changes occur in the structure of organs of an organism during its life, then these changed characters are passed to next generation also, and over a period of time, new species is formed. Lamarck postulated that there are changes occurring in the environment, and these changes create new needs for the organisms, and organisms make efforts to fulfill these needs. These efforts lead to a change in their characters, habits, or behavior. According to this theory, the new characters can be acquired by organism with use or disuse of organs. Continuous use of an organ can keep the organs functional and efficient, or disuse of organ can lead to a gradual reduction in size or even the disappearance of the organ. So that's why this theory is also called theory of use and disuse of organs. The characters acquired by the organism with the use or disuse of organs are inherited to the next generation also. Thus, in every generation, new characters are added and the species get modified to a new one. That's why this theory is also called theory of inheritance of acquired characters. Lamarck explained this with an example of giraffe. According to him, primitive giraffes were short-necked. When all the grass was grazed by the giraffe, they had to stretch their necks to eat the leaves of tall trees. Thus, they acquired long necks by stretching, and they could pass their character to the next generation also. Giraffes slowly came to be born with long necks. But this theory was disapproved by August Weismann. Weismann experimented on mice. He cut the tails of mice and bred them for many years. He wished to see if tailless mouse are born, but every time the mice were born with tails. He proved that the tailless character acquired by mouse during its lifetime are not transmitted to the next generation. Thus, he proved that characters acquired by an organism are not passed on to the next generations because such characters do not bring changes in their genes. Next is the Darwin's theory of natural selection. Charles Darwin, an English naturalist, was the most dominant figure among the biologists of the 19th century. He made an extensive study of nature for over 20 years, especially between 1831 to 1836, when he went on a voyage on the famous ship HMS Beagle and explored South America, the Galapagos Islands, and other islands. Darwin's theory of evolution was based on the study of animals and plants in Galapagos Islands. Darwin postulated that every species on Earth can increase manifold within a few generations and occupy all the available space on Earth, provided all survive and repeat the process. So, the number of species will be much more than can be supported on Earth. Darwinism states that though a population tends to increase geometrically, the food increases only arithmetically. So the food and space do not allow a population to grow indefinitely. Due to rapid multiplication of populations but limited food and space, there starts an everlasting competition for survival between the individuals having similar requirements. And in this death and life struggle, the majority of individuals die before reaching sexual maturity and only a few individuals survive and reach the reproductive stage. So, struggle for existence does not allow any population to increase in number indefinitely. According to Darwin, there are small variations among organisms in a population. You can see here in the figure there are small variations among population in different generations. These variations are transmitted to next generation also. Some of these variations help organisms to better adapt to its environment and help in its survival and production of more offspring. Not all organisms in a population have such variations. The ones which have such variations will win the competition for food, shelter, etc. The weaker ones without these variations will die. That means there is survival of the fittest. It is the nature which is selecting the fittest and eliminating others. That's why population size never grows exponentially. Darwin was influenced by a book, Principles of Population by Thomas Malthus. With time, the type of organisms in a population will change, that is, evolution will occur. That's why Darwin's theory of evolution is also called survival of the fittest or theory of natural selection. The idea of natural selection came first to Alfred Wallace, a naturalist who worked in Malay archipelago. He wrote an essay and sent it to Darwin. Darwin and Wallace then jointly proposed the theory of natural selection. There are two key concepts of Darwin's theory of evolution. These are branching descent and natural selection. Natural selection we have already discussed. Now what is branching descent? Branching descent means evolution is occurring like a branch of a tree. From one species, many more species are originating such that it looks like a branch of a tree. It is not like a ladder. It is not like a single line evolution. It is a branching descent. Yet another theory which explains evolution is Hugo de Vries mutation theory. Hugo de Vries conducted his experiments on a plant called Oenothera lemachiana, also called evening primrose. When Oenothera lemachiana was self-pollinated and its seeds were allowed to grow, majority of the F1 plants were similar to the parents, but a few were different from the parent plants. They even differed from parents in chromosome number. They had varied number of chromosomes that differ from the parent's chromosome number. And similar results were found when new varieties were self-pollinated, and these plants appear to be new species. So Hugo de Vries suggested from his experiments that new types of inherited characters may appear suddenly without any previous indication of their presence in the race. So he concluded from his experiments that evolution is not a continuous process. In fact, it is a discontinuous process and occurs by mutations, which means sudden and inheritable large differences from the normal and are not connected to normal by intermediate forms. Individuals with mutations are called mutants. And mutations can occur in any directions, so may cause gain or loss of any character. So according to Hugo de Vries mutation theory, evolution is a discontinuous and jerky process in which there is a jump from one species to another, so that new species arises from pre-existing species in a single step, in a single generation, and that is also called saltation. And it is not a gradual process as proposed by Lamarck and Darwin. Now let's see what are the differences between Darwinian variations and Hugo de Vries mutations or saltations. According to Darwin, speciation means formation of new species. According to Darwin, speciation occurs by accumulation of small variations over many generations. Now let's see what does Hugo de Vries say. Hugo de Vries said speciation occurs by a single step large mutation. Darwinian variations are small and directional, and Hugo de Vries mutations are random and directionless. According to Darwin, evolution is gradual and it is stepwise, but according to Hugo de Vries, evolution occurs in a single step. Darwin's continuous variations or fluctuations revolve around a mean value or normal character of the species. But mutations do not revolve around the mean or normal character of the species. They appear at once in a population. In a given population, one can find the frequency of occurrence of alleles of a gene. Now, what are alleles? Alleles are the alternate forms of a gene. The frequency of alleles is supposed to remain fixed and even remain same through generations. Hardy-Weinberg principle stated it using algebraic equations. According to Hardy-Weinberg principle, the allele frequencies in a population are stable and is constant from generation to generation. The gene pool, that is, total genes and their alleles in a population remain constant, and this is called genetic equilibrium. Sum total of all allelic frequencies is 1, that is, P plus Q is equal to 1. Now what does this P and Q represent here? Let us see. In a diploid organism, let the frequency of dominant allele A is equal to P and the frequency of recessive allele A is equal to Q. Then the frequency of homozygous dominant individuals in a population is equal to P square and the frequency of homozygous recessive individuals in a population is equal to Q square. Frequency of heterozygous individuals in a population will be PQ. Hence, P square plus 2PQ plus Q square is equal to 1 according to Hardy-Weinberg principle. Now, what is the significance of this Hardy-Weinberg principle? When the frequency measured differs from the expected values. Now, what is the expected value? Expected value is 1. The difference indicates the extent of evolutionary change. When the disturbance in genetic equilibrium or Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium occurs, then it means evolution has occurred. Now let us take an example to have a better clarity of the principle. Let us assume that there is a population of 100 foxes in a locality and the coat thickness of these foxes is determined by the allele C. Dominant C codes for thick coat and recessive C codes for thin coat, and the frequency of dominant C alleles is equal to P and the frequency of recessive alleles is equal to Q. And we know that P plus Q is equal to 1. If the frequency of one allele is known, the frequency of other can be found from the above formula. So let us assume that the frequency of dominant alleles in foxes is equal to P is equal to 0.70, that is 70%. Then the frequency of recessive alleles in foxes will be Q is equal to 1 minus 0.70 and it comes out to be 0.30, that is 30%. Foxes with homozygous recessive alleles is equal to Q square, and if we put the value of Q, we get 0.09, that is 9%. So we can say 9 foxes out of 100 have thin coats. So the foxes with thick coats will be 100 minus 9, that is 91. These thick coat foxes can be homozygous or heterozygous. Now, proportion of homozygous individuals is equal to P square, and if we put the value of P, we get 0.49 is equal to 49%. So that means 49 out of 100 foxes are homozygous. Then what will be the proportion of heterozygous individuals? Proportion of heterozygous dominant individuals is equal to 2pq. By putting the value of P and Q, we get 0.42, that is 42%. So 42 out of 100 foxes are heterozygous dominant. We know that P square plus Q square plus 2pq is equal to 1. And if we put the values of P and Q in this formula, we get 1 on both sides. In this fox population, allele frequency and genotype proportion will not change and evolution will not occur if no fox dies or leaves, no new fox enters into reproductive age, genes for coat thickness do not mutate, natural selection does not favor one type of genotype. If 20 foxes leave and establish a separate population and 8 out of them have thin coat, the allele frequency of recessive alleles in a new small population will be higher than that in the original population. And this is an example of emigration. If 5 homozygous thick-coated foxes join the population, the allele frequency of dominant allele C will increase, and this is an example of immigration. If 5 dominant alleles mutate to recessive alleles, then allele frequency of recessive allele will increase. If 5 foxes with thin coat die due to severe winter, then allele frequency of recessive allele will decrease, and this is an example of natural selection. If thick-coated foxes preferably mate among themselves, allele frequency of dominant allele, that is C, will increase, and it is an example of non-random mating. So Hardy-Weinberg principle explains a hypothetical non-evolving population. It serves as a useful model to measure if forces are acting on a population. So Hardy-Weinberg principle is affected by many factors. Hardy-Weinberg principle states that relative frequency of a gene in a population will not change from generation to generation under following conditions. If population size is large, mating is random, that is, individuals don't prefer particular mates, mutations do not occur, migration of individuals in or out of population does not take place, and there is no natural selection. It is merely a theoretical concept because breeding populations are often small, mutations do occur, migrations occur, natural selection operates, and mating is not random. So Hardy-Weinberg principle, Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium is affected by many factors. So let us discuss these factors which disturb the Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium in a population. These factors are gene migration or gene flow, genetic drift, mutation, genetic recombination, and natural selection. So let us discuss these factors one by one. Gene migration or gene flow. When a section of population migrates to another population, gene frequencies change in the original as well as in the new population. New genes or alleles are added to new population and these are lost from the old population. This is called gene migration. And if this gene migration happens multiple times, then it is called gene flow. In the picture, you can see there is a population of birds on either side of the river. On the left side of the river, the bird's population is having recessive alleles, and on the right side of the river, the bird's population is having dominant alleles. Then one of the bird from the left migrated to right. This resulted in change in allele frequencies. Frequency of recessive alleles on left side decreased and frequency of recessive alleles on right side increased. So this is an example of gene migration. Another factor which disturbs Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium is genetic drift. If the gene frequencies in a population change by chance or by accident, then it is called genetic drift. For example, a beetle from a population is taken to a faraway place on an island due to storm. It was an accident. Sometimes the change in allele frequency is so different in new sample of population that they become a different species. The original drifted population becomes the founder, and the effect is called founder effect. Mutations also disturb Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium. Mutations are sudden inheritable changes in the genetic makeup of an organism. Mutations in genes result in formation of new species, and formation of new species is called speciation. So mutations also result in change in gene frequency in a population. Genetic recombination. During gametogenesis, crossing over occurs during meiosis. Crossing over means exchange of segments between non-sister chromatids of homologous chromosomes. This crossing over brings about new gene combinations. So it is called genetic recombination, which results in changed gene frequency in future generation. You can see here this chromosome was having dominant alleles, and after crossing over in one of the chromatid, it is having one dominant and one recessive allele. Yet another factor which disturbs Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium is natural selection. It means in a mixed population, the organisms that can better adapt will survive, reproduce, and increase in population size. That means nature is selecting some specific alleles. Natural selection can lead to stabilization, directional change, or disruptional natural selection. So let us discuss these natural selection one by one. First of all, stabilizing natural selection. Nature selects those individuals which acquire mean character value, and the individuals with extreme character values are eliminated. You can see here, this is the bell-shaped curve. It is broader, and when stabilizing natural selection operated, then what happened? Mean character value individuals were selected and individuals with extreme character values were eliminated. So the peak gets higher and narrower. Let us take an example, sickle cell anemia in humans. We know that humans with sickle cell anemia die and the normal human beings get selected. But in tropical Africa, normal individuals are dying due to malaria. Homozygous sickle cell anemic individuals are dying due to sickle cell anemia itself. And heterozygous sickle cell anemic individuals are surviving because they will not suffer from anemia as they are carriers but normal. And they will not have malaria also because some of their RBCs are sickle shaped, which do not allow the growth of malarial parasite in them. So you can see here, heterozygous sickle cell anemic individuals are selected by nature, and normal individuals and homozygous sickle cell anemic individuals are eliminated by nature. Directional natural selection. Nature selects individuals which acquire value other than the mean value. Individuals at one extreme are favored and the ones at other extreme are eliminated. For example, industrial melanism, resistance of insects to DDT. Earlier, mosquito population had more DDT sensitive mosquitoes but less DDT resistant mosquitoes. When DDT was not used, DDT-sensitive mosquitoes dominated the population. But with the use of DDT, DDT-resistant mosquitoes grew in number. So you can see when DDT-resistant mosquitoes were favored by the nature, then the peak shifted to one side. You can see the difference here. The peak has shifted to one side, and this type of natural selection is called directional natural selection. Now, disruptional natural selection. Nature selects those individuals which acquire extreme values. Nature is selecting those individuals which acquire peripheral character value at both ends of the distribution curve, such that it breaks a homogeneous population into two peaks. For example, in a sea, three types of snails are there: white, brown, and black. White snails are invisible when covered by barnacles. So you can assume that this peak is of white snails. Black snails are invisible when rock is bare. You can assume that this peak is of black snails. But brown snails are eaten by predators in both conditions. So these are eliminated gradually. So you can see that this depression is of brown snails. So gradually brown snails population is decreasing and population of white snails and black snails is increasing. So this is disruptional natural selection. Once life originated on Earth, it is ever evolving. So let us discuss a brief account of evolution of life. About 200 million years ago, first cellular life forms appeared on Earth. Some of these cells release oxygen by the process similar to photosynthesis. Unicellular gradually evolved into multicellular. About 500 million years ago, invertebrates were formed. 350 million years ago, jawless fish evolved, and this fish could move on land and go back to water. About 320 million years ago, seaweeds and few plants evolved. And these plants were the first organisms to invade land. In 1938, a fish caught in South Africa is a lobefin called coelacanth, which was thought to be extinct. These lobefins evolved into first amphibians. These were the ancestors of modern-day frogs and salamanders. Amphibians evolved into reptiles. Now only their modern-day descendants, the turtles, tortoises, and crocodiles can be seen. 200 million years ago, reptiles dominated the earth. Some of these land reptiles went back into sea to evolve into fish-like reptiles, for example, Ichthyosaurus. Land reptiles were dinosaurs. Biggest of them was Tyrannosaurus rex of 20 feet height. Giant ferns were also present in this period, but all fell to form coal deposits. 65 million years ago, dinosaurs suddenly disappeared from Earth. When number of reptiles came down, mammals took over the Earth. First mammals were like shrews. Mammals which live in water were dolphins, whale, seals, and sea cows. The most successful story is the story of evolution of man with language skills and self-consciousness. That we will discuss in later section, but before that, a rough sketch of evolution of life forms. Their times on geological scale are indicated in next two figures. So let us discuss those two figures first. Sketch of evolution of plant forms through geological periods is given. You can see here, these are the eras, and these eras are further divided into various periods. And in this diagram, it is shown which plant evolved in which era, or you can say which plant evolved in which period. So let us see. Chlorophyte ancestors, they evolved into bryophytes, as well as they evolved into tracheophyte ancestors. Tracheophyte ancestors further evolved into Rhynia type plants, and they also evolved into Zostaurophyllum. Zostaurophyllum further evolved into arborescent lycopods, and These further evolved into herbaceous lycopods. Rhynia type plants evolved into Xylophyton, and Xylophyton evolved into sphenopsids, that is horsetails, ferns, ginkgos, conifers, nettles, and progymnosperms in different periods. Progymnosperms evolved into seed ferns, and seed ferns evolved into cycads and dicots and monocots. You can see the most advanced flowering plants are monocots. Most recently evolved plants are monocots. Another picture in NCERT is of representative evolutionary history of vertebrates through zoological period. Early reptiles evolved into synapsids and sauropsids. Sauropsids later evolved into turtles, lizards, thecodonts, tortoises, and snakes. Synapsids in turn evolved into Pelycosaurus. Pelycosaurus evolved into therapsids, and therapsids evolved into mammals. Thecodonts evolved into crocodiles, dinosaurs, and birds in different geological periods. Present human species is named as Homo sapiens. Homo sapiens, the most prominent species on Earth, is the result of millions of years of evolution. The traces of human evolution have been obtained through fossil records and morphological, physiological, and embryological studies. The first ever ancestors of humans are believed to have originated in Africa, from where they migrated to Europe, Asia, and rest of the world. Man originated through several stages, so let us discuss these stages one by one. The earliest known ancestor of man is Dryopithecus. It was more ape-like than man-like. It had semi-erect posture, hairy body, and walked like gorillas and chimpanzees. In fact, it is the common ancestor of man and apes. It evolved into apes and Ramapithecus. Ramapithecus was more man-like. It originated 3 million years ago. It was not taller than 4 feet and it could walk erect. Its fossils have been discovered in Ethiopia and Tanzania. About 2 million years ago, Australopithecus evolved from Ramapithecus. It lived in East African grasslands and hunted with stone weapons and was essentially fruit-eating. Australopithecus evolved into Homo habilis. They lived in caves. Their brain capacity was 650 to 800 cubic centimeters, and they also, like Australopithecus, did not eat meat. About 1.5 million years ago, fossils of Homo erectus were discovered in Java in 1891. It has a comparatively more brain capacity of 900 cubic centimeters and it ate meat. Homo erectus evolved into Neanderthal man about 1 lakh to 40,000 years ago, and Homo sapiens about 75,000 to 10,000 years ago. Neanderthal man lived in East and Central Asia, used animal hides to protect body and buried their dead. Their brain capacity was 1400 cubic centimeters. On the other hand, Homo sapiens lived in Africa, used agriculture, and their brain capacity was 1650 cubic centimeters. The rest of what happened is part of human history of growth and decline of civilizations.